Some people have heard about, some people don't know what a DPC is. So it's, meeting them where they're at, educating, and then especially now as we've started to have different membership types, a big part of it is, kind of fitting, finding the right membership type for each person so that ultimately they're happy with what they're paying for, what they're getting.
People that come to HELPcare are going to get great care. They're going to get that unhurried personal primary care. They're going to be heard and get the support that they need to take charge of their health. And that's just, hearing what people are coming from, that just doesn't seem like what most people are getting.
Hey, welcome back to Take Charge with HELPcare. I'm Lee Aase, your host, along with Dan Hinman, my co-host, and today we're joined by a couple of pretty special guests from my perspective. And I just have to start by confessing how badly I goofed up in our first episode. We were really new at this at that time, so part of this was Dan asked me the question, so tell me a little bit about your family. And I talked about my wife, Lisa, and how we met. And I didn't say anything about my 6 children, or our 6 children. And especially since our 6 children have all been involved to some extent with HELPcare and with the launch of HELPcare Clinic. So it's exciting today that we're able to have 2 of them on as guests. My daughter Rachel Borg, my son Joe Aase, same last name as me. Nice how that works. Anyway, and they've been involved for quite a while, almost from the beginning of this, and actually before we opened HELPcare Clinic. And Dan, you got to meet them a little bit just as we were doing some of that preliminary planning. So this is a great time for you to be able to catch up with them and kind of see how things have evolved over these last almost 4 years now.
Yeah, one of the things I really like about HELPcare and working with you, Lee, is really the family environment. Not only do you have your own family involved, but the employees all feel like part of the family, right? And so that's really a great atmosphere, sets a really nice tone for all the healthcare that takes place because of how everybody feels about each other. And it is true that I had a chance to meet Rachel and Joe before. And that was in the early stages of kind of planning what strategy and what should we do. So it's been really exciting to see them grab hold of their responsibilities and step in where they could really be helpful. So why don't we start, Rachel, with you and tell us a little bit about you and then how you got involved with HELPcare and why it's really an important part of your life now.
Yeah. I am the oldest of Lee's 6 kids. It's Rachel, Jacob, Rebecca, Ruth, Joe, and John. So I'm Rachel. I've been married to my husband, Kyle, for 18 years now. I was thinking about saying that as I was thinking about what I would say. And I was like, man, that just makes me feel really old. But I was young. We have 6 kids. We live in Kansas. My husband's a pastor. Our kids range from 16 down to 1. I homeschool them. And yeah, just have a nice life here in Kansas. We've lived here for almost 12 years. And
well, one of the questions we're going to have right off the bat is, how does a pastor's wife with 6 kids who's homeschooling have time for this?
Well, that's the question. It's just kind of gradually grown from when I started helping out. And, as my responsibilities have grown, my kids have gotten older and more helpful. And I have just kind of learned how to delegate in a lot of areas of my life. So we talk about delegating and elevating, and I kind of do that. Now I don't do now that my kids are older, I don't do laundry. I don't do a lot of things that I used to do. So I actually have more time to do things like this, which is really fun.
So what do you do for HELPcare?
Yeah. So I've been involved a little bit, probably 2.5 years. It was the summer of, what year was that, Joe, that you got married?
2022.
22. That we were all together, the 6 of us and our spouses, in Austin, and the clinic had just opened that year in February. And at that point, I just kind of heard about it, like it was a big part of Mom and Dad's life, but I didn't know that much about it. Kind of followed stuff on Facebook, and Dad said, I'd like you all to be involved in this in some capacity, and we really think this is going well, and this is a great mission, and So he at that point said, I was laughing talking about this today, that he said, I do this one, like I make a video slideshow for the radio show every week. Like that's probably something you could do. And at that point, that felt kind of like I didn't use iMovie. I didn't use that kind of thing. But I was like, okay, yeah, I'll try. And that led to just slowly getting more involved in things and how things worked and switching more over from the marketing to more of operations and helping out with that and figuring out just how to make everything work smoothly. And now my official role is integrator. Use Traction. Well, what's it called? That I just messed that up.
Entrepreneurial operating system.
Yeah, we use the entrepreneurial operating system. I can't even say it. EOS, and that sets up. There's the visionary, which is Dad, and then usually the visionary needs an integrator, which kind of helps systematize, make things work, very detail oriented. And I found out as my bossy older sister roots that
Correct.
that is a good place for me to be. That's kind of where I've settled now, but it's been quite the journey to get here.
Well, and Joe, I just say Joe was involved for about a year before that, so we had some
Bit of a
talks out on
visionary
the golf
myself.
course. Yeah, well, this was before we had the name HELPcare, so Joe and I spent some time on the golf course, kind of talking about this, and I think we were talking through different names for things, and he was really getting into it right away and really seeing, I think, the potential of this. And so, yeah, he's been with it probably a little bit, even about a year longer.
Yeah, and you were driving down, Joe, like a lot of when we were open on Saturdays, you're driving down every Saturday. You're working your job during the week and then coming down on Saturdays. And
yeah, no, I like Dad was saying, would just come down to Austin to get some free golf in, see my parents, all that. And, Dad, when he's doing something, he gets pretty, passionate and into it about it. And he just kind of wants to tell everybody his new thing he's got going on. And I was listening to it. And first, it kind of seems like a crazy idea to quit your job when you're working at Mayo and start this whole new thing. But I was like, the more he told me, I was like, okay, this isn't crazy. This is, okay, that makes sense. Okay, we got, the pieces. And as we just kind of progressed, it's like, okay, yeah. And then, eventually, November 2022 or 2021, we start getting the founding members. And then when we had that, that's when you think, okay, we really have something here. And then from there, I should say I live in Hopkins with my wife. So I just do HELPcare as a part-time job, just kind of, help where I can to start with. But, from there, I was like, this is a cool idea. I want to come down to Austin on Saturdays when it's open, just kind of get a feel for what this place really is, see where I could maybe help. And then from there, it's just kind of evolved. The core and the spirit of HELPcare has been the same from the beginning. I think Dad did a good job establishing that and then really refining it over time. But the overall, roles change. They come and you go, and you just kind of flow to things that you have the capacity for and the ability for, and there's a need for. And so for me, that's meant, since I am, I'm working a different full-time job, for me, that's meant kind of taking on the role of, dealing with the retail sales of, if we get a lead from a prospective new member, I call them back. And since I've been there from the beginning, I can answer all their questions. I know I can really talk them through who we are. People have different varying understandings of, some people have heard of us, some people don't know what a DPC is. So it's, meeting them where they're at, educating, and then especially now as we've started to have different membership types, a big part of it is, kind of fitting, finding the right membership type for each person so that ultimately they're happy with what they're paying for, what they're getting, and we serve them the best we can.
So Joe, tell us, as you're involved with helping new people find out more details about HELPcare, what are some of the most common questions you get when you talk to someone?
Well, a lot. It's just do you guys take insurance? It's a big one. That is, I know we don't. So that just leads into kind of telling them more about how, since we're direct primary care, we require a membership and we're not in the insurance system. And we kind of walk them through why that is, how we can save some of, have lower administrative costs so we can try to provide, good quality care at an affordable and, regular price, no surprise bills. Where you can feel comfortable if you go to the clinic that, you know what you're going to pay. It's not scary going in there. And then another thing is, just kind of a lot of members, they ask philosophical questions like, what is your medical philosophy? Or even just like, what's your approach? Because, sometimes people have a tendency to get tired of going to the doctor and they feel like they're getting preached at, and they don't necessarily feel like they're being heard. So I was just talking to this guy the other day, and he was just talking to me for an hour, and he was just not happy with wherever he was going. And he just wanted to be assured that, that he was going to drive the car and we were going to advise him on his health, and not the other way around. So those are two big ones.
Yeah, great comments there. I'm kind of wondering too about the family dynamics as you work. So Rachel introduced herself as the bossy older sister. So how do you deal with that, Joe?
Well, it's funny you asked, Dan. Since I was here first, I was in the company first, you really should have kicked it to me first and then her. I'm used to that. No, I mean, it's great working with Rachel. It's good. I mean, it wouldn't be the same if she was different. She just takes charge.
Like the podcast.
Like the podcast. So she just takes charge. She takes initiative, and I just kind of listen to her as she takes the first draft at things, and I'll tell her if I think she's on the right page, and she usually is. But it's fun when I can catch her being.
Yeah, I just gotta say, so a year and a half ago, it was me with kind of the only real formal role, and we didn't have the formal structure that we have with EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, the traction approach. And so because of that, when it was time to make a decision, or when somebody they'd say, "So Lee, what should we do?" And that led to some less than optimal decisions. And not just because they weren't as well considered, and I was kind of a little bit of a shoot from the hip sort of approach, just because we're busy, we're going or making things happen. And so part of what we're understanding through EOS and the team dynamics there is just that it's really helpful to have different voices, different perspectives, to have a lot of give and take and sort of hash out the direction that we should take. And I definitely will say that we would not be where we are at all without these guys. They're really Margot, our clinic director, as well. She's the fourth member of our leadership team. Just the fact that we can, have good spirited discussions about what direction to go with things, and really hear pros and cons, and then end up getting the decision made in a good direction. And it's so superior to the way things were before, when it was just kind of making gut decisions. And I think
for a while you
just
had to make things happen and keep the ball rolling. But then it just got to be a bigger ship, and when you made a little change, it just affected a lot more than you would think. And then we had more employees and just getting everybody on the same page. So the leadership team has been really a helpful dynamic to be, and we all have different seats where we're seeing different things. And that's helpful to have us all, say from our vantage point, like, Joe, here's what's happening when I'm talking to prospective members. Right. And Rachel, here's what I'm hearing when I talk to current members. I'm the one that talks to the current members about membership issues or billing or anything like that. And then Margot, has the medical side, and Dad sees the big picture. So we all have our vantage point, and we try to work together and row together. And that part is going well right now. So
yeah, I'd say, besides Rachel and Joe, we have 6 kids. We've had all 4 other branches of the family also involved. So Rebecca, I mentioned a little bit earlier, I think is one of our nurses. So she's our middle daughter. And so she's, helped set up the lab. We wouldn't have had the on-site lab set up without her. She was responsible for just making that happen. And then my daughter-in-law, Lexi, helped on the communications team when we were starting out with this as well. And my son, John, and his wife, Bella, also were involved. And then Ruthie, my daughter, who's a missionary in Bulgaria, was doing some remote stuff as well. So part of what we wanted to do is we saw this as something that we thought could be significant. And, it's my 3rd career, and I'm hoping that it can be more significant than the first 2. And I think the first 2 were pretty good, and so wanting to have a chance to have the kids involved in it, because, I am 61 now, and I would like this to be able to continue and, thrive beyond when I'm able to be involved in it. Lord willing, I'm hoping to do 20 more years. But even after that, we want to make sure that we think this is something that's important, and we want to have a good, not just infrastructure, but just a good team, an organic team in place that shares the vision and is committed to helping sustain it in the long term.
I'm kind of wondering, Joe and Rachel, as you work with patients and as you are involved, of course, in the whole business, what part of that mission really resonates with you? Like, obviously came on board because there was an opportunity to work with your dad and to help do some good things. But what kind of makes you excited when you come to work each day, or a piece that really, really, really helps you feel good about what you're doing?
I'll go first. Well, I think it's kind of what I said earlier. It's kind of just that there's a lot of people who, they call and they're so frustrated, and they just don't feel like they're being heard by their doctor. And so just the kind of the feedback that we get. I mean, if you look at our Google reviews, our members are happy. They're satisfied with the care that they're getting. And, we're not just trying to stick them on a medicine and get them out the door. I think our practitioners and our nursing staff and the people actually in the building day to day do a phenomenal job of caring for their members, and so that's a massive credit to them. So it's just a uniqueness that I think that is fun, and also, I mean, it's a constant problem to solve. It's as you're moving down the thing, it's not, every day is different. Things start going good in one way, and then we take a hard left turn, and we try to keep it straight on the tracks, true to our mission, true to who we want to be, and true to our staff, that we treat them well. So that was kind of a meandering answer, but
I like that. Thanks for explaining that. Yeah, Rachel.
Yeah, there's just a lot of things. I mean, I love, Dr. Strobel was our family doctor growing up. Like I feel like we've always known him. We know he's just he's a great, great doctor. And then, I've seen a couple of the other female practitioners, and they're just all just having the confidence knowing like people that come to HELPcare are going to get great care. They're going to get that unhurried personal primary care. They're going to be heard and get the support that they need to take charge of their health. And that's just, hearing what people are coming from, that just doesn't seem like what most people are getting. And so definitely like the clinic employees and Margot, the people who are on site there, do a fabulous job taking care of the members. But what makes me really excited is just helping to make it all happen smoothly. Like supporting the staff that's there, removing obstacles, solving problems, helping things run more smoothly. Like that's like getting systems written up, getting processes written up. And those are the kind of things that I found don't spark dad joy. So weirdly, I enjoy it. And so that's just been fun to see how, like, being a stay-at-home mom, homeschooling kids, like, I can see how my life has kind of prepared me, being a big sister, to be able to help in this way, help dad to make this happen. And it's just nice that, like I was telling my mom the other day, that I've talked to dad and Joe probably more in the last 2 years than my whole life combined. So it's just really great.
Yeah,
So
I mean, we're
just seeing
closer.
yeah,
We've had a close family, but we're
right.
closer even.
Well,
it's
just
just
because we're
nice.
in
It's nice to
contact
have
every
a
day.
good excuse. It's
Yeah.
just
So
good to
it's
have
like, even if,
a good reason. It
and
just
for a
makes it
while
easy.
when, we weren't sure, like, it wasn't like, is this going to work? Is this going to be what people, is their demand? It's like, well, even if it doesn't, like, it's been great. It's been fun. We've been having this time. We've been working hard, trying to make it happen. And, we're blessed that it seems to be what people are wanting, and it's going well. And so, yeah, I think that's the thing for me.
I love this because, the opposite could be happening, right? I mean, there could be conflict and disagreements and discomforts
Well,
and disappointment.
It's because I'm so easygoing, Dan.
Well, Lee, what about your turn? What causes you to really, where's your passion in this whole organization?
Yeah, well, as Rachel said, I'm not the detail guy. I'm the big picture guy, and I love trying to make ideas happen. And that's been part of, as we've talked in some previous episodes. And what's been just so great is that we've got a very cohesive team now that's aligned toward sorting those things out. So as part of the EOS, traction model, they talk about the visionary and the integrator, and the visionary's job is to come up with 20 ideas, and 18 of them might be not very good. It's the integrator's job to help, and the rest of the team to help sort through which ones are good and which should be pursued and which ones shouldn't. The good thing is that the two that work really make a difference. I mean, it's what really makes things happen. But then to have the implementation work, that, I mean, I think about what Rachel's done in helping us get our membership billing system, caught up to date. We had some times when we had a lot of overdue invoices just because we weren't systematically following up with them. And that's something that, Rachel helped a bunch with. And having Joe, as he said, been here from the beginning, from before the beginning, really understands what we're really all about. And so for the retail members, the prospective retail members calling and having someone who's totally knowledgeable and can help them sort through which of the 3 membership options, makes the most sense for them. That's just been great. And I'd say, I've said before that I think everything that I've done in my career up to now has prepared me for this. It's like they were all good in their own right, but I think it's culminating in, well, Stephen Covey's last book is called Live Life in Crescendo. It was a book that he wrote with his daughter, and actually his daughter finished it about 10 years after he died. It just talks about how, when you're in your 60s, when you're in your 70s, you have a lot of life experiences and resources that you don't have when you're young. Okay, when you're young, you have energy, and you can keep going, all the time. So I think what's super rewarding for me is that we're able to do this thing now. The experiences I've had have equipped me for this. And now we also have young people with energy that Lisa gave birth to. And that are able to join with us, and really together we're able to do a lot. It's been really exciting.
Well, Lee, it was your idea to have Rachel and Joe on the podcast. I thought, what does this really have to do with patient care?
I see how it is.
But I am so
vanity
grateful
project.
you invited them on. It's been delightful to give them a chance to shine in this podcast and let folks know what they do and how the family really makes this thing work. So thanks for this idea.
Yeah, well, we're yeah. It's been fantastic working with them. As I said before, we would not be here without them. I mean, without their contributions, we would have hit the wall. We would have really been struggling. And because of they just do so much, and so much of it has been just a labor of love, I think. And I think the ties that we have within our family, and the sort of the calling that we feel to do this, this is a chance to serve. And that's something that I got from my parents, and we definitely like to be in a position to pass this along to another generation and hopefully beyond.
Yeah. And it's true of our staff too. Like just the whole organization, it feels like the right person comes along when we need them. Even like Dan, we were talking, a few months ago about what would be a great place to have for you to be involved in healthcare. And then we, Dan had this idea of like the podcast. And I think it's great.
Yeah.
You two doing this, and the great back and forth and the insightful questions that you have. That's just, with bringing practitioners and nurses and everybody that's come onto our team, just, it seems like it's just at the right time. And it's just been a blessing.
Marvelous.
We're really excited to see what's next. So thanks, Rachel and Joe, for joining us today. More than that, thanks for joining HELPcare and being part of this, because, as I said, we couldn't do it without you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave a comment or a review, and to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on YouTube. And also to share Take Charge with HELPcare with your friends and on your social media channels. At HELPcare, our passion is helping people take charge of their health and their health care, helping employers take charge of their health plan expenses, and helping physicians and other practitioners take charge of their healthcare careers.
Learn more about the HELPcare Clinic difference at helpcare.health.